Montana. The Warriors headed for their 5th straight NBA Finals. And yes, we'll get to the Lakers. Seems like an engineering issue. It's Tutel and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Outstanding to be with you on this Tuesday afternoon. Hope you are having a fantastic day. Thanks for spending some of it with us on your radios and also across the state on SWX Montana Television. Hi, how are you? Thanks for being with us. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula. Also, quick mic change for Coulter over here. No problem. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, and also online at kurtzpolaris.com. You can find us online at 1029ESPN.com. There you can listen live to the stream. The stream is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can get this show no matter where you are, on your mobile device, on your laptop, on whatever it is that you might have, that you might use, that you might think is worthwhile having, etc. Check it out there, 1029ESPN.com. The stream is brought to us by Opportunity Bank, your local bank, your opportunity. You can also, should we try it? Move it around. Let's see what happens. No, I mean, we can. Oh. Excellent work. Engineering issue.
Oh, man, look at
solved.
that. Sounds so nice.
You can move the thing through.
That sounds even better.
Yeah. Throw that thing out the window. Great work, Tommy. 4-second fix. That's all it took. Months of consternation. Over. You can find us online. Did I say that? Yeah, 1029ESPN.com. Great. Good. Very good. 329-1899, the phone number. You can call. You can talk to Tommy. He's hot under the collar. Coulter's already angry. He's been angry all day. He hasn't eaten. Big man, got to get some food in him or else he's just going to be a bear today. So we're going to have to deal with that altogether. 329-1899 if you like to talk him off the ledge a little bit. All guests join us via the Rangich Brothers RV phone line. In the show today, we're going to talk some NBA. The Blazers get swept yesterday. I guess you can't call it a perfect sweep. It did take Golden State 5 extra minutes to finish them off in overtime last night in Game 4. But the Portland Trail Blazers exit, and the next day, that being today, Terry Stotts agrees to a multi-year contract extension. I think that's probably a good thing. We also have Game 4 of the Milwaukee-Toronto series tonight. Toronto able to get back into the series with a big win, double overtime win. What a treat we've had. A double overtime game, an overtime game, and a 4 overtime game in this postseason. Tonight, Toronto hosting Milwaukee. They need to win again, in my opinion. The Raptors to be back in the series. If they go down 3-1, headed back to Milwaukee over. Not saying it's going to be over in 5, but I'm saying it will be over eventually in the favor of the Milwaukee Bucks if the Bucks win tonight. So, big game this evening up north of the border. It's really actually east of the border, but if you want to, I mean, I'm probably the only one who cares about that sort of minutia. We also are going to get into the LA Lakers. We did not get into the Lakers drama yesterday. This has been on Coulter's mind, on his shoulders. He wants to know what in the world's going on. So we're going to hash this out about the Los Angeles Lakers. And also, how about some NFL stuff? It's the offseason, but we are now post-draft. A bunch of guys retiring, a bunch of guys no longer on teams, and a bunch of guys moving around, including Ndamukong Suh finding another new team today in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So there you go. We're going to get into all this stuff. Oh, also, 5:30. Really looking forward to this. We are remiss to not mention this, but Ross McMoney, who is the club director for the Missoula Strikers, is joining us in studio. He and his team, U16 team, went to London. Hello, the home, the heart of soccer, and also Ross's home nation, a fine Englishman himself, taking the club back to his old stomping grounds. And so a great trip that they were on, and then a big tournament coming up in the end of June, the weekend of the 21st through the 23rd, out to the Fort Missoula Park there. So we'll get into all of that with him. So there you go. There's the show outlook. Coulter, how are you? I already know the answer. You going to be all right? We're going to make it here? Are you going to eat?
Great.
Are you going to eat dinner today?
Maybe. We'll see. Cleansing.
You're cleansing. What is that? Is that different than fasting?
Yes, because it involves very, very small morsels of high-protein food to keep your
Like
metabolism going. No. You got these little whey protein wafers that are spliced with green tea extract. 10 calories apiece. You get 6 per day.
6?
Yes.
Wow. Seems like a little overkill, huh? Couldn't cut it to 4, huh?
Couldn't you just go with like one chicken wing a day?
The whole concept of the cleanse is to cleanse your body cellularly, and we are exposed to toxins throughout the world, all over the place, that we take for granted or don't acknowledge, whether it's the perfume that your wife wears or the
Perfume that you wear.
the emanating radioactive waves from all our technology to the fire retardant that your pillow was sprayed with that you put your face on for 10 hours last night. It's all toxic. It's toxicity within you. So you cellularly cleanse by drinking botanical juices and eating a very low amount of food.
You know, sometimes it's
It's my 4th week. This is my 4th Tuesday doing it. And at this exact moment, until I go to bed, is the worst. The worst. I'm so mad. But
Well, I would think so,
tomorrow,
yes.
I will wake up and I will feel beyond phenomenal. I'll be so mentally acute. I've noticed my workload being able to uptick substantially. My addiction to caffeine has been cut in half. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, I don't know. These are the moments where I'm happy I don't prescribe to all the conspiracy theories, you know?
This is not a conspiracy theory. Not acknowledging what's going on around you is actually the perpetuation of the greatest conspiracy theory of them all.
Yeah.
1984 is real,
Well, that,
which is why Game of Thrones is so dumb. But we digress,
yeah, everybody, that's one thing we did not touch on yesterday.
which we never will.
No, I mean, first of all, we can't. Did you watch it?
Never would I.
Okay. You could take that hard line. That's okay. I just simply don't have access. That's fine.
I have watched 7 episodes of it. It's actually very well done. The story is great. The writing is awesome. I just think the
but not only never would you, in fact, you
the
have.
brainwashing is the bad part.
You sound pretty brainwashed today, Coulter,
No,
yourself.
No,
It's because he slept on a pillow that was dipped in what
Fire
chloride,
retardant.
chlorosophrosides.
You guys derail me so much. I'm so ready to talk about the NBA. Let's go. Who cares about me? No one listening to the show cares about me.
You're wrong about that.
Maybe you two, but that's all.
I care about you deeply, and also everyone listening is very interested to know while they disagree with you about the fire retardant, so they need to eat 10-calorie wafers of green tea.
This is why I don't sleep.
It's not the wafers. The wafers keep your metabolism churning, which helps your cells cleanse.
Okay.
It's the juice, the botanical juice. But it's more than anything, it's just water. It's just science.
Doesn't acidic coffee have some kind of a value to the human body at the cellular level?
It
Cheers
does.
on
That's why
that.
you're allowed to drink acidic coffee
Well, that's exactly what
during
I'm
your
doing.
cleanse.
I'm cleansing right now.
Ryan, I feel like we're at a risk of being knocked out during this show today.
Or walked out on, one of the two.
Yeah.
You guys are the ones making this into a big deal. I'm ready to roll.
The Portland Trailblazers played their last game last night of the season. You heard it here first on Tutel Nuanez saying that very thing. And it, as much as I admire what was a great fight to me by Portland, I thought they did not roll over last night. And in fact, I mean, at the end of regulation, Damian Lillard had a tough but makeable runner to win the game and went back iron and off. And in overtime, the Blazers fall to the Golden State Warriors, who are now, going to their 5th consecutive NBA Finals, 119-117 in overtime last night. You can say that this was a 2-point game, that it went overtime, that it could have gone either way, and you would just be wrong about this. This was the just perpetuation of total inevitability last night to watch this basketball team and the Blazers lose to that basketball team, the Golden State Warriors. It had the look, the feel the entire way, and even when Golden State would get it out to 11, maybe 13 points.
Portland.
Portland, thank you. would invariably get cut back down to 6 or 4 or what have you. The end of the third quarter was the time where what had happened in games 2 and 3 happened at the end of the half. It happened at the end of the third quarter last night where the Warriors were down, I think, 12. Hit a three-pointer, made a stop, came back, got what I still deem to be a pretty bogus, if not technically speaking, accurate, what do they call it, a free range foul? What is it? A free
Clear path
foul. Thank you. What do I know? Free range. I'm trying to not eat toxins. That's what I'm into. Free range chickens.
It's good for everybody to be engaged in that sort of thinking.
Okay.
Congratulations. Good job.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, pair of free throws with possession, and on the possession, make both 3 free throws on the possession, bury another 3, 8 points in like 30 seconds. Portland doesn't score again before the end of the quarter, and what was a 12-point lead with 60 seconds to go in the third, it's a 4-point lead heading into the fourth quarter, and you're just like, well, that's it, that's all. And it went back and forth in the fourth quarter, but really it didn't. The games always slant to the Golden State Warriors down the stretch. It is the way it is. One, because they're better. They're the better basketball team, okay? So that just matters, but also this matters so much more. They're the team that's been there. They're the team that knows what it is and how it's got to get done in the playoffs when you're making a run, how you got to go about it. And this team showed it again and again and again. I thought the Warriors, I thought Portland gave away game 2 to an extent, although I really want to give kind of equal credit, at least in that game. And I thought that the Warriors just took the soul from the Portland Trailblazers in the second half of NBA Finals are already set, Coulter. May 30th is the first game. No matter what happens here in the Eastern Conference Finals, May 30th is the first game. You're talking about 10 days off total, in between. Yeah. But that almost might be too long. I don't know. But it's a long, long rest. And when you're talking about maybe getting KD back, maybe getting Cousins back, that's a big time deal to sweep for the Golden State Warriors, and it just felt so obvious that it was going to happen, even though it was a 2-point game and went overtime and all of that.
It almost might be better for the Warriors if they wouldn't have swept, so they didn't have the time off, so that those guys couldn't come back, because at this point, these guys are playing at such a high level of confidence. We talked about it yesterday, but I just find it astounding that somehow, some way, Steph Curry has become underrated. Steph Curry, in my opinion, is the most important player in the NBA that's not named Giannis Antetokounmpo. I think that he's the most important player to what his team does. There was a possession last night when Steph possessed and passed the ball away and received the ball back on 5 different passes, and each time he cut through the lane, he cut backside, he cut back door, he ran the wheel, he ran the flare, he ran everything until finally it resulted in a 3-pointer at the end of the shot clock. And Steph Curry, Mark Jackson said it during the telecast, Stephen Curry is in perhaps the greatest physical condition of any player in the NBA. And you wonder, how does a guy who looks so young and physically immature and is so slight, how does he dominate at such a high level? It's because he can run that possession and then not miss a beat. He's not even breathing hard. Mm-hmm. He's like a cross-country runner that has a unique basketball skill, and that's shooting the basketball. And I think that it's crazy that he's become underrated, but now I think with that run in the Western Conference Finals, which statistically was one of, if not the best conference finals 4-game set we have seen, I think he's reaffirmed himself just how important he is, but also just the playmaking of Draymond Green. Last night he had triple-double, outstanding. But, to take a deeper dive into the actual X's and O's of this thing, it's so funny how sometimes stats lie. Myers Leonard had the greatest offensive performance of his entire career. It's not close. He's never scored 30 points in a college or NBA basketball game.
He'd never scored 25, and he had it in the first half.
He had it in the first half.
Yep. It was great.
That's what the Warriors wanted.
Right.
Because they want Myers Leonard to, one, make shots, because that means that they can double the ball screen with Damian Lillard. They can trap Damian Lillard every time Damian Lillard is isolated at the top of the floor. And that resulted in Damian Lillard going 11 of 24 last night. He had 28 points, but 4 of 12 from 3, and he never could really get it going. He had 12 assists, a lot of those to Myers Leonard. But again, the Blazers never adjusted to Myers Leonard because they wanted Myers Leonard to continue to shoot and make or miss. If he's making it, that means he's staying on the court. And if he's staying on the court, what does that mean? That means he's got to guard the Warriors' offense, and that was the number one liability that the Warriors exploited. So even though Myers Leonard on paper had 30 points and 12 assists, and it looks like the greatest game in his career, and individually it is, that played directly into the Warriors' hands, and they just continued to run their actions, and they just were able to slowly chip away. And I just thought that the last couple minutes of regulation and then most of the overtime period, it was like the 15th round of a boxing match where one guy's trying to not get knocked out. He's just trying to make it to the final bell, but he knows he's got nothing left and he knows he's already lost. He's just trying to not He's just trying to not fall over. And to me, the Blazers, to me, this series was over when the Blazers blew the lead in game 2. Because that was just such a disheartening lead, and then Damian Lillard gets hurt in game 3, and they lose in embarrassing fashion, and then game 4 rolls around, and it was kind of just a repeat of the same disappointments. So, I know we're going to get into where the Blazers are at as a franchise, which I think is fascinating. You mentioned Terry Stotts' contract extension.
Yeah.
They almost fired Terry Stotts at this exact point last year.
Right.
And that I think it's a great example of how if you just have patience and you stay the course, it can work out. I think a lot of times NBA franchises make such drastic decisions, and I don't think that's necessarily the solution a lot of times.
Right.
Like Jeff Van Gundy said, if the only thing you need to change is if the only thing you think you need to change is the coach, you're likely wrong.
Changing.
Nothing's
Right.
changing. Right. So I know we'll get into the Blazers a little bit more, but I'll say it again. It's impossible. The most important thing in the NBA playoffs is having a guy you can throw the ball to and can get you a bucket when you need it. Kevin Durant is the best person in the world at that. So it's impossible to say the Warriors are better without Kevin Durant. But I think the Warriors are, 1, more appealing to watch, and 2, way more diverse and tougher to beat in a variety of ways when Kevin Durant's not in the game, because they can play truly 12 guys. They can play way different lineups, different rotations, and it brings it revitalizes a bunch of dudes who, when revitalized, are all NBA players.
I mean, they started Alfonso McKinney, who paid $175 to get a G League tryout, to be allowed to try out for a team. He's paying them to play one day. This is going back a year or two, and now all of a sudden he's starting in a Western Conference Finals. And to your point, which you told me last night, I think you're spot on about this, so that Steve Kerr can maintain his rotation, so that he can bring in Kevon Looney and Bogut and Cook and Jerebko off the bench the way that he wants to. It's not just, okay, well, you're the sixth man, now you move up in the slot. It's like, no, what do we need to do to keep this thing flowing? Okay, yeah, let's go with the, guy who was, practicing at open gyms a year ago and let him start in this basketball game. And because they have such high-end talent, they're able to weave that, him in. And by the way, McKinney played great. He played 26 minutes and played really well. So I also wanted to say about Steph Curry, 11 assists, 13 boards to go with his 37 points. Just absolutely flawless basketball. And this was stunning to me when they said this too. The triple-double by Draymond Green and Steph Curry, both last night. The first time in the history of NBA playoffs that two teammates have had a triple-double in the same game in the NBA playoffs. Unbelievable. I would not have guessed that, but that is impressive. And you're right. I mean, they're so diverse. They're so multiple. I also think that for going back to the Blazers, this is the series where not having Nurkic was glaring, because great as Myers Leonard was last night, he has deficiencies that they were able to exploit, particularly defensively. The same when they have Zach Collins or Enes Kanter, no matter who you throw in there, each of those guys, each of those big fellas for Portland brings a really nice set of skills, but also a glaring weakness. And weaknesses with the Golden State Warriors are just going to be manifest tenfold. And so that is the outcome of this series isn't changing if Nurkic is there. But I don't know that it's a sweep. I think it's a more interesting series with him in the game. And so that's something to consider. Let's talk about where is Portland right now in terms of what do you think? Because I am pretty high on the Portland Trailblazers. You can say that this is a high. Well, it as a matter of fact, is a high water mark. They went to the Western Conference Finals for the first time since, I think, 2000, right? There's a lot of people who think that, they may be, boxed above their weight class in terms of even making it this far. And at best, I think you can say that they're the third best team in the West, certainly behind Houston, I think, at this point in time. But I also think Damian Lillard and C.J. McCollum both took a step forward in terms of their ability to learn how to win in the postseason and to in fact do it. And that is so key, to have those guys they've been in their prime for a couple of years now, but have even advanced in their prime now in terms of what they bring to the table. And this was not their best series, certainly for Damian Lillard. And I think, again, if his rib was separated, I think it was an absolutely championship effort that he showed to just be out there and be as productive as he was. But nonetheless, not a great 4-game stretch for either of those two guys, even with 28 and 26 last night. But I think that what they did against OKC, who we both picked, remember, the Thunder to win in the first round of these playoffs, and it was a 5-game series, and the great shot, well, that and the Kawhi Leonard series winner as well. But the shot of the postseason is the Damian Lillard 5 games, wave bye-bye, see you later. And then to get through a 7-game series, a very tough 7-game series with a good Denver team, knock off the 2 seed, I thought was impressive. I thought was a big step forward. And I think this team, they get Nurkic back, and who knows maybe who they're able to add. But I think this is a team that is in a place to be even better next year than they were this year. And again, the consistency, like you said, to extend Terry Stotts out, to come back, to regroup and to go again is great. And people will say, well, you know what? You're still not going to be better than the Golden State Warriors next year. And you know what? You're right. And you know what? No one else is going to be either. And what is your other option? What is it that you would suggest that Portland do to become better than that? All you can do at this point, if you are the 3 seed in the West and you made it to the Western Conference Finals, is to keep pounding. Keep working away at it until you have the breakthrough or until you just fall apart, one of the two. But those are the options that they're in, and I don't think that's a bad spot for Portland, because I do think that they're going to be better even next year than they were this year.
Well, they're going to have to do what a lot of contenders don't have to do, and they're going to have to fortify the middle and bottom parts of their rotation, because with the contract situations that they've inherited plus the contract situations that they're facing, right now there's a speculated and likely about to be completed deal for Damian Lillard, which is a 4-year, $191 million contract. He'll pay him $47.5 million per year. Absolutely well-deserved. There's no question that you have to give him that contract.
Good work if you can get it.
The C.J. McCollum is going to be up for likely the 4-year, $80 million extension that a lot of guys have been, a lot of the second-tier, non-superstar, but really excellent players have been signing. So now you got a ton of money committed to those two guys.
I think he's going to get more than
you
that.
already got Myers Leonard on a. You're already overpaying Myers Leonard by a lot. A couple of the beat writers I follow for the Trailblazers, they have tweeted consistently and constantly about the impending flux that's about to happen with the Portland Trailblazers. They cannot and will not keep Enes Kanter, Rodney Hood, or Seth Curry. They're going to have to make a decision on Al-Farouq Amino. And so if you lose those 4 guys, I don't think it's the end of the world anywhere with those, especially when you get Nurkic back. You just paid him, so that's another reason why you're going to have to sort of pinch pennies here, relatively speaking.
Right.
When you're talking about salary cap and luxury tax and all that kind of stuff. But basically what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to ask yourself, is what we saw out of Evan Turner in the last 4 games worthy of Evan Turner being a rotation guy or being the 11th man? Because Evan Turner played more minutes the last 3 games in this series than he did for the previous 2 playoff series for the Blazers, and he was okay. But where are you at with Evan Turner? Because Evan Turner is a very interesting piece. He's a guy that is going to make more money than he's probably worth going forward in his career. He's a guy that has been largely disappointing during his NBA career. And you're also going to face, what are you going to do? Zach Collins and Myers Leonard are such an interesting 1-2 combo because on paper, they are the prototype big guys that you want in the NBA. They can both shoot. They're 7 feet tall. They can run. They're long. They can jump. They're good shot blockers. But as we saw last night, Myers Leonard played 40 minutes. He scored a career-high 30 points, and he was -7 because of the way he got exploited in the pick and roll. Zach Collins is much better at that, but he's also not nearly the shooter Myers Leonard is. I also think that those two guys, personality-wise, Myers Leonard looks like he's about to cry at all times. Zach Collins is by no means a super composed, smooth individual. He is an emotional guy as well. Can you last with those two guys? I don't know. I think Mo Harkless is a great piece because he's more of a mediator and he can be way more of a calm type competitor. But I just think that it's going to be so interesting to see because you already know who you hitched your wagon to. You're hitching it to the two guards.
Of course.
You already have, and you should. But how do you supplement that? I just think that they're going to have the opportunity to go get a couple good veteran style guys. Like if they were to add a guy like, say a Marcus Smart or an Avery Bradley or a Patrick Beverly,
yes,
or a great perimeter defender to take some pressure off those other guys. What I'm saying is, when you're the Blazers and you're in the situation they're in, when you're talking about a small market team that has for sure one superstar and another star who's a really good player that are invested in where you are and what you are and what you can become, I think it's a great situation to be in when you're a small market team. You just have to get it right with who you replace those role guys are, because I mean Rodney Hood was way better in the playoffs than he had. Yeah, Rodney Hood was great in Utah and awful in Cleveland, and now he kind of reemerged the last 20 games of this season. But I don't think he's irreplaceable. Enes Kanter is one of the most perplexing one-way players in the league. I think Enes Kanter is one of the 10 or 15 best big guys offensively in the league, and he is absolutely one of the 5 worst big guys defensively in the entire NBA. So I don't think he's irreplaceable either. All I'm saying is I think that you certainly can replace the guys you're losing. You just have to get it right, because if you get it wrong, if you saddle yourself, like a couple years ago, they saddled themselves with that Allen Crabbe contract. They just went out on a limb and paid Allen Crabbe $12 million a year, and it killed them. It killed them, and it made it so their roster depth wasn't good, and they got swept in the playoffs 2 years in a row, and they finally unloaded that contract and got some of these other guys, and that's why they're in the position that they're in. They just have to choose right with who's going to replace those players.
Totally agree with you. Nurkic coming back is a big deal. I was so disappointed in Al-Farouq Aminu in this postseason. I've loved Aminu for as long as he's been in Portland. I think he's been a really important piece, but he came up so small in this postseason.
He did.
Is truly disappointing, and I don't really know why. And he only got 11 minutes last night, even though he started in the game. Scored 0 points, and this isn't just about yesterday, but it's about a lot of things. So I think he's a question mark too of what you do. Here's the thing to me. Projecting this thing, like what you have right now in Zach Collins and Myers Leonard are comparable, but I think in the future, no question it's Zach Collins. What I have seen from him in terms of his progression and improvement as a player in just a couple of years that he's been in the league has been significant, and I think you can expect him to continue to get better to the point where he is the three-point threat that Myers Leonard is, maybe not as a big guy, but where he's still proficient. He's already an okay shooter. And what he brings in terms of effort, and I think in terms of a defensive savvy, he's not the best straight-up defensive player, but he's a smart defensive player. He's good instinctually that way. I think that he's a guy who could actually be a starter potentially, and certainly a high minutes guy for this team. So I like him a lot. Everybody else, completely replaceable. But you're right. You got to replace them with the right people. And I think that the loss of Nurkic hurt them, but also that exposed the lack of depth that this team truly has coming off the bench. You can do as much as you can do with what you got, but they need better players coming off the bench than what they've got right now.
And the Zach Collins point is such a great entry point towards such an interesting conversation. And we'll touch on this a little bit more after the break. But I do think that people ask what's the difference in playoff basketball and regular season basketball, and to me, it's almost 100% mental. It's almost 100% will. Zach Collins is not scared to compete, and that's where he. I mean, I don't particularly like Zach Collins' like personality and style, but I have a newfound respect for Zach Collins because the way he battled the last 2 rounds of the playoffs. he is not scared to compete. Whereas then you look at a guy like Pascal Siakam, for example, for the Toronto Raptors, a tremendous athlete and unbelievable breakout story this year in the league. But he has shrunken in the playoffs. He's been almost irrelevant in the playoffs. And it's why it's a great example of why LeBron James wanted to surround himself with guys he knew could hang. Yeah. It's why Danny Green keeps getting contracts, because Danny Green, he's not going to just wilt in the moment. Even if Danny Green is just a very average NBA player now, you know that Danny Green is going to rise his level of competition in the playoffs, whereas a lot of guys, especially when they're not ready, I don't think Siakam is done forever by any means. He's only 23 years old. He's a phenomenal talent.
You got to learn some of it.
You got to learn some of it, but that's why I think Zach Collins is so impressive, because Zach Collins is only 21 years old, and he's already got it in him.
Yeah, he does.
And that's why he's going to get paid for a really long time.
On the other side, we got to get into some LA Lakers stuff. Colts has been wanting to chomp it at the bit to talk about the Lakers a little bit. I'm not entirely sure why. They're terrible, but we will talk about them right after this. Hey, if you're like Coulter and myself, you just can't wait till the next chance you get out on the links. Well, guess what? Canyon River, they got you all set up. It's starting to warm up out there, people. I felt the warm rays of the sun. I know that you had a great weekend while I was gone, week while I was gone. It's perfect time to get out there, get your swing back in order, follow in the footsteps of Brooks Koepka. Easy enough. Also, at Canyon River, brand new fleet of golf carts outfitted with the Shark Experience. What's the Shark Experience? Well, it's Greg Norman's brainchild, and it is an opportunity to have a dynamic interaction with every single hole, giving you real-time distances in the moment from your cart as you move to the front and the back of the green, to bunkers, to hazards, and also touchscreen capability to set up shots so you can know exactly how far it is to points, in the fairway and play, a little bit smarter golf. You don't just have to hit it as far as you can every single time. You can actually play with some thought put into it. If you know how far you got to hit the golf ball, this helps. Or if you're like me and maybe not in the fairway all that often, well, now you know how far it is to get from your angle, which might be a very acute one, off to the far side of the fairway or an adjacent fairway perhaps, back into the field of play that you're trying to get to. It's a fantastic thing. Also, live scores, music, Bluetooth, radio, surround sound, the Shark Experience on the brand new fleet of carts at Canyon River Golf Club. Check them out online, canyonrivergolfclub.com. It is the best setting in the area to play golf, a spectacular experience, Canyon River. Love playing out there. Go enjoy what is the spring and the summer on the golf course.
Canyon River Golf Club is a must for any golfer in western Montana. Tucked away in a spectacular setting along the Clark Fork River in East Missoula, Canyon River offers one of Montana's best championship golf experiences. And Canyon River is happy to announce their new fleet of golf carts, which include the Shark Experience, an interactive GPS giving dynamic distances and touchscreen interaction to help you play your best. Plus, with Bluetooth, radio, and surround sound, you can enjoy yourself between holes too. Book online at canyonrivergolfclub.com. Missoula's best golf, Canyon River.
Alpine Touch has mastered keeping your taste buds happy by spicing up anything you throw on the grill this summer. Now, let Alpine Touch keep your mouth watering whenever you want their new sunflower shooters. Their new jumbo sunflower seeds seasoned with Alpine Touch's world-famous all-purpose seasonings. And Alpine Touch sunflower shooters will be available all summer at every Osprey baseball home game. Available at retail locations around the state and online at alpinetouch.com. Alpine Touch, Montana's special spice.
No matter how far you may go, there's always one just down the road. Town Pump, who pump it up, pump it up.
What goes perfectly with a crisp and delicious salad? Energy drinks, of course. At Town Pump, you can grab your Bang and Rain 16-ounce energy drinks, 2 for $4. And don't forget your greens with a chef salad in the deli, only $4.49. Town Pump Food Store is proud to be part of our community.
Town Pump, right down the road, pump it up, oh yeah.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
Hey there, there. Colter Nuanez from Tutel Nuanez 102.9 ESPN Missoula here with Tom from Aspen Sound. Tom got me a great deal on an automatic car starter this winter. Now it's summer. What sort of stuff you guys got going on down there, Tom?
Well, Colter, coming into the summertime, we're picking up on the window tinting front. So if you need your windows tinted, give us a call. We'll get you scheduled up. Boats and ATVs are starting to come in full swing, and we're also starting to see the hot rods come out to play. Anything audio related, let us know. We'll get you taken care of.
Feel the music at Aspen Sound.
Hey, Tutel Nuanez here. Can't tell you how many times we've heard the face for radio joke since we came on SWX television, but it's been a fun endeavor so far.
And now our esteemed producer Tommy is pushing the envelope even further. We got our own YouTube channel.
That's right. If you want to watch us every day from your computer, your tablet, your cell phone, you can check out Tutel Nuanez on YouTube.
Tutel Nuanez, live every weekday from 4 to 6 in the afternoons on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Missoula, SWX Montana statewide, and now around the planet Earth on YouTube.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Hey, boys and girls. Ryan Tutel, Colton Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Sports Center. Josh Tuffelele, Montana State's offensive line coach in 2017 and 2018 and the recently named Bobcat recruiting coordinator, has resigned because of personal reasons, MSU head coach Jeff Choate announced on Monday. With his promotion to recruiting coordinator, Tuffelele moved from offensive line to tight ends during MSU spring practices in March and April. Tuffelele also helped mentor an offensive line that paved the way for Bobcat rushing attack to rank first or second in the Big Sky Conference each of the last 3 seasons.
Choate announced the hiring of Nate Potter, a former Boise State standout and NFL draft pick who coached the offensive line at the College of Idaho last season. Potter was a 7th-round draft pick by the Arizona Cardinals in 2012. Brian Armstrong, the former offensive coordinator for the Bobcats, will coach the MSU offensive line in 2019. Potter will coach tight ends and running backs coached
the Western AA divisional title over the weekend. The Spartans piled up 142 points, 45 more than runner-up Helena Capital. Elias DeWaters continued his claim as the best triple jumper in the state, while Brock Field claimed the discus divisional title and Jaden Foster won the 400. The Spartans will be one of the favorites entering the class. The only thing we like more than intelligence, humor, sports is drama. Oh, drama. Let's get into it. The Los Angeles Lakers. Colter's been waiting for me to come back and then waited through an entire show with 29 ESPN Radio, broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, online at kurtzpolaris.com. You can find us on Twitter at Gus Tutel. That's me at 1029 ESPN. Montana, SWX Montana, statewide TV, and around the earth on YouTube television as well. You can check out the Tutel Nuanez YouTube channel. All right, Colter, have at it, and then I will not retort, I will just simply respond with my thoughts as well, and we'll see how much we align. You Lakers drama. It's the table is yours.
Well, I mean, this has been obviously talked about ad nauseum on national radio, but we haven't touched on it very much at all. And, I got a little Lakers fatigue towards the end of the regular season in the NBA because
LeBron not making the playoffs became an absolute non-story. Absolute non-story.
Still the biggest story in the NBA. Besides the Warriors chasing a 4th title in 5 years. I mean, how could it not be? He's the biggest star in sports.
He's not playing. He's not there. He's not there. There's no story.
It's not that that is the biggest story, though. I mean, the ratings are down. It's an overwhelming story, even if it is a non-story, even if it's a non-existent story. When Magic Johnson resigned, that press conference was not intended to be. He was not supposed to talk at that press conference. He got up after, I believe it was Luke Walton, was done speaking and was like, should I go now?
He had an impromptu. He called it impromptu one.
I'm pretty sure that somebody else was addressing the media. Magic Johnson took the chair. Regardless, Magic Johnson did not inform anybody in the Lakers organization that he just walked away. I just feel like how that is so crazy, and that's not getting enough play. I mean, Magic Johnson is like the definitive face of one of the most iconic and successful franchises in the history of professional sports. He's, I think you could say, the most beloved Laker, even if he's not the greatest. I think you could easily say he's the most beloved Laker of all time. And the fact that he crashed and burned so hard, I think there's just so many prongs to the why and what does this mean? Because since Dr. Buss, since Jerry Buss died, the Lakers have been irrelevant. I mean, there's only 5 teams in the NBA that have a 6-year playoff drought, and the Lakers are one of them. They're in there with the Hornets and the Kings and the Knicks. How is that possible? It's astounding that this is the reality. And then they go and they sign LeBron James and still miss the playoffs. Luke Walton cuts a backdoor deal, and he's out before he can even get fired to go to the Kings, the Sacramento Kings. In what world is there a coach that leaves the Lakers for the Kings?
Well, the Kings are better than the Lakers.
Absolutely. And how is that possible? How do we get to this this situation? I mean, Tyronn Lue has never proven he could do a single thing in the NBA as a player or a coach unless he was tied to LeBron James. And so the obvious thought when he was the leading candidate to be the next Lakers head coach was that this is LeBron's choice. And the fact that Tyronn Lue said thanks but no thanks, I think just reveals how dysfunctional this franchise is. Since, what's his name? It's not Fred Hoiberg, it's Frank Vogel.
Yep. Since
Frank Vogel's been hired, LeBron James has made no public statement about it. LeBron James has done LeBron James has his own show on HBO, which I know is not public or cable television, but stuff from that leaks. Him and Lonzo Ball had like a 10-minute conversation on The Shop, and they both said that they found out that Lonzo Ball found out on Twitter that Magic Johnson had resigned, and that LeBron James found out from Lonzo Ball texting him. Again, how is this reality? How is the situation?
Well, that is a function of the way that Magic went about it. That's not
totally. I just think that the fact that LeBron James has made public comments in interviews with both ESPN and TNT about what he thinks of the landscape of the playoffs, and I mean, he had a long soundbite about his praise of the heart of the champions of the Golden State Warriors and how great of a player he thinks Steph Curry is, and he's talking just effusively about his perceived rivals, and he has not said one word about Frank Vogel. He has not said one word about the Lakers coaching situation. But now there's leaks coming out of his camp that LeBron James wants out. If that's true, if the LeBron James experiment in LA lasts a grand total of 50 games, that's mind-blowing.
No. And I think that is overblown, and I don't think that he wants out. And that's an aside.
What do you think about the fact that, though, LeBron James has chosen his coach for the last decade? Mm-hmm. And the only reason Ty Lue would be in the mix is because that's LeBron's guy. Mm-hmm. And Ty Lue says thanks but no thanks. Well, what do you think of that?
Here's what I think. I think Ty Lue, first of all, he didn't say thanks but no thanks per se. He wanted a 5-year deal. They wanted to offer him a 3-year deal, and he said no to that because he wanted more. And what I think is, if you're the Los Angeles, I do think it's foolish on the part of the Los Angeles Lakers, because what are you worried about? You're worried about tying up a few million more dollars in the event that he doesn't work out as a head coach? Okay. But you're already going to pay 3 years to Frank Vogel, and you have less likelihood of success. Like, if Ty Lue was the guy that you wanted, even if it was merely to appease LeBron James, then go get him. Like, go get him. You're the Lakers. Go get him in the door.
Right.
And just that you wouldn't offer him the thing that would make him come is on you. So I think that's as much on the Lakers as it is about Ty Lue going, no, thank you.
Don't you think that's indicative of the unrest internally? Because if Ty Lue says, I want 5 years, for the duration of LeBron James's career, he had the power to say, give him what he wants, because that's who I want. And so then the fact is that this is either LeBron James steering Ty Lue away and saying, hey, you don't want to be a part of this situation. Maybe you should say thanks, but no thanks, because I might be out of here too. Or the Lakers front office said, LeBron, you don't run the show. We're not going to listen to you. And I think that in itself is going to fester and is going to boil over, because if everybody that listens to this show knows I'm a huge LeBron James guy, a huge LeBron James supporter, but LeBron James has never not got what he wants. And I feel like he is prone to become a petulant child if he doesn't get what he wants. And also, though, if there is that unrest, I mean, basically LeBron just got abandoned. LeBron James would tell you he came to the Los Angeles Lakers to wear the purple and gold to play in Hollywood, but also because of the conversations he had with Magic Johnson.
Yep.
Magic Johnson's out. Magic Johnson left him high and dry. So if his guy, his internal guy, is out, and now he's dealing with Rob Pelinka, who by all accounts has handled this thing horrendously. All he's doing is slinging mud in the media. He's talking smack about everybody. He doesn't even show up to the NBA draft lottery. They send Kyle Kuzma instead. I just feel like there's a disconnect there. And if the Lakers think they're going to dig their heels in and they're going to teach LeBron James to sit down and shut up, we're the ones making decisions, they ain't going to go over so well. Because regardless if I think athlete empowerment is a good or bad thing and the entitlement that comes with it is a good or a bad thing, at the end of the day, LeBron James wins. Because LeBron James runs the NBA. Not just the Los Angeles Lakers. LeBron James runs the National Basketball Association.
Here is, to me, the pretty simple issue that has created a very complex one. There's too many cooks in the kitchen.
Right.
Jeannie Buss
exactly
is such a, by all accounts, a loving and loyal and caring person. And just about, I've not heard one person say one bad thing about her. In fact, quite the opposite. But she wants, evidently, the Los Angeles Lakers organization to be this big family of Laker greats to carry on the legacy and so on and so forth. So you bring in Magic Johnson as the president. You have Rob Pelinka as the general manager. You have Kurt Rambis, who is a senior advisor. Heaven only knows what that could mean. And then you have her, obviously, who's another and sort of the final voice in a lot of these things. You know what that makes for? Just gridlock.
Right.
And especially when two guys like Pelinka and Magic clearly not getting along. Beyond even merely disagreements professionally about personnel or whatever.
Right.
Well, what there needs to be is a guy. Okay, what you need to have, what the Sacramento Kings have, is one person who goes, I'm the one making the decisions. If it goes badly, it's on me. If it goes great, it's on me. If it goes average, it's on me. Period. End of story. Okay? The Los Angeles Lakers have a half a dozen people who have been pulling in different directions, and you just go in absolute circles to nowhere. And so they have a very mediocre roster outside of LeBron James and no discernible direction because there is nobody at the top who's definitively there, that everyone knows that they are answering to and is going to be the final decision maker. Magic Johnson thought it was him. Found out that it wasn't him when he couldn't get the coach that he wanted to get in there and said, you know what? I got some movie theaters. I'm fine. We'll see you later. Now, I don't think that he went about it the right way at all. I really don't. I think I think it reflects very, very poorly on him.
But also how much of the situation have been if he's going to leave the place that defined him high and dry like that. Obviously, the situation is horrendously bad.
I don't think that the situation could possibly. It doesn't matter how bad it is.
Right. I agree.
You go to Jeannie Buss, you go to LeBron James, and you say, "This is what I'm doing." I mean, this was such a snap decision. It seems like
sort of, but like where the Los Angeles Lakers last won the NBA title in 2010.
Okay.
The first domino that fell was Phil Jackson retiring and breaking up with Jeannie Buss. There's been inbreeding and infighting with the Los Angeles Lakers for more than a decade. And now it's one domino after the next. Phil Jackson leaves because of a personal thing, not a professional thing.
Yeah.
And then Dr. Buss dies, and now the entire hierarchy of the organization is turned on its head, and they give a bunch of incompetent people control, and that's never stopped.
Well, and there has been, up until, 2 years ago, multiple owners, right, where the Buss children were all equal, parts, and finally Jeannie Buss said, no, we're not doing this, I'm taking over. And that, that was the first step in terms of what needed to happen. But you have to have the person at the top that's the decision maker. That's it, and that's all. And there can't be all of these voices who think that they have some level of responsibility and decision making. I mean, if you have Rob Pelinka, who's the general manager, the general manager's job is to put the roster together. And you have Magic Johnson, who's the president of basketball operations, who believes it to be his job as the boss of Rob Pelinka to put the roster together.
Right.
Well, you got a problem now. And it doesn't matter. You can insert whatever two names you want. If you got both those titles doing those things in tandem, you got problems, it seems to me. And so getting Magic Johnson in there for the sake of the person, of the name, of the icon that he is, to bring in guys like LeBron James, I totally understand. But then he's got to be the one to do it. And if he's not going to be the one to do it, then he needs to be apprised of that. But all of this, well, where's Magic today? He's probably off, on his golf course. Oh, he's probably off at his theater. Oh, he's probably, off at his car dealership, whatever it is. That goes nowhere fast, and that's where the Lakers are. It's Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. We got to get to the Milwaukee Bucks game tonight, at least for a little bit. This is a big, big game, Game 4. I have a couple of questions for Colter. We'll ask him next.
That's right, it's tax return season, and there's one place to have the most fun and make that refund check stretch further than anywhere else, Selway Armory. Selway Armory has the largest selection of firearms, ammo, and accessories of anywhere around, and they have the expertise to go with it. It's not everywhere that you can shop local and save money, but Selway Armory will meet or beat any box store price, and your money stays in Montana. It's tax return time, so get more bang for your buck at Selway Armory. Visit online at selwayarmory.com.
If you haven't tasted Florence Coffee's signature Power Shot, you've got to stop by and check it out. Espresso shots and cream, poured over ice, and topped off with whipped cream, sprinkled with raw sugar. Come visit us for an afternoon pick-me-up and try any of our iced lattes, cold brew, or delicious frappes. And go to FlorenceCoffeeCo.com.
The best flavor under the big sky. Florence Coffee Company.
Les Schwab is proud to introduce two of our best tires ever, just in time for summer. There's our exclusive Reputation, a high-mileage premium passenger tire we believe has the quietest, most comfortable ride ever. Or our exceptionally quiet and smooth all-season traction tire, the Open Range AT. Get $50 off alignment when you purchase a set of 4 Open Range AT or Reputation tires. Book an appointment today at leschwab.com. Les Schwab Tires. Doing the right thing matters. Cannot be combined with other offers. Limited time only. See details at leschwab.com.
On Russell, across from the fairgrounds.
More bedrooms, a big yard, better commute. Whatever your reason to buy a new home, it's the right reason. In a tough housing market, the smartest thing you can do is pre-qualify for a loan before you start looking. Farmers State Bank makes it easier than ever to start the loan process with online checklists, forms, and calculators. Your dream home is out there. Get started today at farmersebank.com. Farmers State Bank, an equal housing lender and member FDIC.
Hey folks, Ryan Tutel here with Josh from The Advocates. If you've been in a car accident and need help dealing with the insurance company, you should give The Advocates a call.
It doesn't cost anything at all to call, and I'd be happy to talk with you about your situation. You don't want to have to be dealing with contacting the insurance companies and setting up your claim. We can do that for you from start to finish. We'll take the hassle out of the process so you can just focus on getting better.
There you go, folks. If you've been injured in an accident, give Josh a call, 640-4444, or online at montanaadvocates.com. There are a lot of lawyers, but you deserve an advocate.
Hey, Tutel Nuanez here. Can't tell you how many times we've heard the face for radio joke since we came on SWX television, but it's been a fun endeavor so far.
And now our esteemed producer Tommy is pushing the envelope even further. We got our own YouTube channel.
That's right. If you want to watch us every day from your computer, your tablet, your cell phone, you can check out Tutel Nuanez on YouTube.
Tutel Nuanez, live every weekday from 4 to 6 in the afternoons on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Missoula, SWX Montana statewide, and now around the planet Earth on YouTube.
Tutel and Nuanez. Listen to the podcast on the TuneIn Radio app or on iTunes, 1029ESPN.com.
Raptors, Bucks, Game 4. This is the balance on which the series hinges. Raptors win, it's going to be a great series. Raptors lose, going to be over, my prediction, 2 days hence. It's Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy. Online at kurtzpolaris.com. Coulter, game 4 tonight in the Eastern Conference Finals. The Golden State Warriors have already swept the Blazers, as we talked about off the top. This game tonight is important. It's going to be determining in a lot of different ways. Obviously, if the Raptors win, it's a minimum of 6 in terms of what the series could be. But also, with the Warriors already sitting at home, resting up quads and calves and everything else, how important is it to you for Milwaukee to get this thing done and get to the sidelines, or does it just not matter because the NBA Finals are starting on May 30th, come hell or high water, and you still got a week and a half no matter what?
As I always talk about, the NBA is an old players league, and that seems like not conventional wisdom, but there's only been one team in the last 15 years that had a superstar or a group of superstars under the age of 25 that made it to the NBA Finals. That's when the Oklahoma City Thunder did it, when Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant were 22 and 23, respectively. James Harden also on that team. Most of the time when you're winning your conference and going to the finals, it's because you have veteran guys that are 28, 29, 30, 31. Michael Jordan did not win a championship until he was in his 30s. LeBron James didn't get his first title until he was in his late 20s. It takes a while to learn how to win. Tim Duncan was the exception, went and won as a rookie during the lockout shortened season. But he was with an all-time
David
great
Robinson,
player, sure.
right.
Yeah, as well as a bunch of other veterans like Avery Johnson and Steve Kerr and Sean Elliott and on
Plenty
down
of
the line.
rookies that win, but usually they're not the guy on
Their
their
guy,
team.
the
right?
guy.
Yeah.
What I'm getting at here is that most contenders need as much rest as they can because they've gotten to a point and they've hit a wall. Like, say, for example, the Blazers make the playoffs next year. Well, now the Blazers have been in the playoffs now with this group of guys for 5 years, and they advanced a couple years in a row. That starts to wear on you. It's just like the Houston Rockets. They've been in the conference semifinals, the conference finals, year after year after year. That's extra games, less rest time than the rest of the league is getting. And so a lot of times you do need the extra rest. What I'm getting at here is that the Bucks, first of all, this roster is young, but second of all, they have never been in this situation. So they're not as needed to recharge or refill. Obviously, rest is good, but I think that rest for the Bucks would be less advantageous than a lot of teams because they just need to keep this thing rolling because they have been rolling since day one, and they need to never have a blip in momentum. It's very rare that you have a season like the Bucks have had where you just win 3 out of every 4 games in the duration.
They've lost 2 in a row once
right
this season.
Right. It's never so many teams, you might rip off a 20, you might have a 7-game skid and then you rip off a 17-game winning streak, or the ebbs and flows, maybe you figure something out. The Sixers down the stretch last year are very reminiscent of that. They did not play well initially after the All-Star break and then hit a gear and rode it and won a playoff series. But the Bucks have just been win, 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 lose, win, 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 lose, over and over and over and over and over again. And I just think it would be maybe a disadvantage for them to break that momentum. The other thing that I think is so important for tonight's game is I think that tonight's game has an element of a power shift in the league, because I agree with you. If the Bucks win in Toronto and go up 3-1, the series is over. The Raptors are not going to win 3 out of 4, including stealing a pair in Milwaukee. It's not happening.
3 straight.
3 straight, right.
Yeah.
And they're not going to win twice in Milwaukee. They're not. That's not happening. If they lose tonight, the series is over. If the series is over, what does Kawhi Leonard do? Because I think every game the Toronto Raptors win is one step closer to maybe the dream of Kawhi Leonard staying in Toronto being a reality. No superstar has ever walked away from a team that went to the NBA Finals the year before. And no one has ever walked away from a championship team. They have walked away from conference finalists, though.
I first of all, you don't need to worry about the Raptors being a championship team. That ain't going to happen.
I agree.
So here's the thing. Kawhi Leonard, it's the least possible player, certainly now and maybe in a long, long time, of a superstar caliber player, to decipher what it is that he cares about or what it is that he's interested in.
Right.
I've seen more interviews with Kawhi Leonard this week than I've seen almost his whole career, because he's been doing post-game stuff and actually talking. You're like, wow, okay, yeah, that's what Kawhi's voice sounds like. Interesting. I I had no idea. He clearly didn't want to go to Toronto, but he created the situation where he didn't have a choice, and he wanted out of San Antonio for whatever reason so badly, and now he got his wish that way. Now he doesn't want to be in Toronto, evidently, and I have no gauge for how strongly he feels like that, how much being in Toronto and having the glory of Drake sitting, which, by the way, I can't think of another team whose most iconic figure is not a player. But such is the case with the Toronto Raptors. You get more FaceTime out of Drake in these telecasts than out of any guy, all the close-ups. Drake screaming. It's fine. I'm glad he's into it. That's good. Anyway, point being, I don't know. I don't know if he feels differently about Toronto now that he's been there, now that they're winning, now that Siakam has proven that he's, a legit 1A to Kawhi Leonard, being their number one. I don't know what he feels about Nick Nurse.
That's right.
And his, 1993 goatee that he's got going on. I don't know what he thinks about any of these things. And so I can't sit here and predict what he thinks. Clearly, if you're successful, it's a more inviting situation. But also, if you're Kawhi Leonard, what haven't you been successful? I mean, Kawhi Leonard could and rightfully look in the mirror and go, if I'm on the team, we're going to be good. And so I just want to play where I want to play. And I wouldn't begrudge him that perspective at all if he had it. In fact, he's proven that to sort of be true. So I don't know what he thinks about the Toronto Raptors. I think he's out.
First of all, Toronto, widely regarded as one of the most multicultural and diverse cities in the entire Western Hemisphere.
No doubt.
Their roster, aside from Kawhi Leonard, who's just an African-American guy from Los Angeles, reflects that. There was a great story about the way that Marc Gasol, Serge Ibaka, and Pascal Siakam communicate on defense, because they each have a shared language, but they don't, because Marc Gasol speaks Spanish and English. Pascal Siakam speaks French and not that much English. And Serge Ibaka speaks French and English, but not Spanish. And so they talk to each other in this multiple language defensively. It's this great story. And I thought that was so revealing, both to just how multicultural the NBA is and also just how multicultural Toronto is too. Just, is Kawhi Leonard into that or not? I'm not sure. It's like Jalen Rose always says, Toronto is the most underknown and an underrated city in the NBA. If you are into that kind of stuff, if you want to walk down the street and maybe see somebody speaking Spanish and somebody speaking French and somebody speaking English, it's awesome because they have great support. I mean, people forget Toronto would be, I think, the fourth largest city in America. Toronto is a major global megatropolis. I mean, I think that Toronto would be in population behind only New York, LA, and Chicago. I think it's as big or bigger than Houston. Yeah, certainly bigger than Phoenix. So you're talking about a giant city with just a ton of stuff to do and resources and all that. But it's in the Great Lakes, and it's on the lake, and it's cold, and it's Canada and all that stuff. So I'm not sure where Kawhi Leonard falls on that. It was interesting, though, this last weekend I was in Bozeman, and I was going through, we were cleaning out our garage, and I have an epic archive of Sports Illustrated saved. And one of the ones I found was this, it's Kawhi Leonard on the cover dunking on LeBron James and Chris Bosh. And it has a pull quote from Chris Bosh saying, "That was the best basketball I've ever seen in my life." Talking about Kawhi Leonard. People forget that Kawhi Leonard was the MVP of the NBA Finals, and he beat the Miami Heat, the super team Miami Heat, almost by himself when he was fully healthy. And that was when he was not in his prime as he is today. So if he continues to develop, you're right. Kawhi Leonard is because he isn't the look at me superstar type guy. He could be. I mean, I think he's proven now he's a top 5 player in the league. And when at his best, it's hard to argue that he's not one of the 3 best players in the league. So it's going to be an interesting piece. But you think he's out?
Yes, because it sounded like initially he didn't want to go there, and I've heard nothing to suggest that he wants to stay.
Totally. But we also don't hear anything from Kawhi Leonard ever.
So it's impossible to know. Hour 1 in the books. Hour 2 coming straight ahead. NFL news, updates, movement, retirement, all the things next.
Canyon River Golf Club is a must for any golfer in western Montana. Tucked away in a spectacular setting along the Clark Fork River in East Missoula, Canyon River offers one of Montana's best championship golf experiences. And Canyon River is happy to announce their new fleet of golf carts, which include the Shark Experience, an interactive GPS giving dynamic distances and touchscreen interaction to help you play your best. Plus, with Bluetooth, radio, and surround sound, you can enjoy yourself between holes too. Book online at CanyonRiverGolfClub.com. Missoula's best golf, Canyon River. Hey everybody, here with my good friend Josh from the Advocates Injury Law Firm. Josh, if I've been in an accident, how much is it going to cost me to hire you?
Well, we take cases on a contingency fee. And what that means for you is that if you're hurt in an accident, we only get paid if you make a recovery. You'll never owe us anything so far.
What about the call for a consultation?
That's not a problem. We don't charge anything.
The Montana Club invites you to stop in for Club Cocktail Hour. Every day from 3 to 6, sip on $5 martinis. Get $1 off all wine and beer, including cool Montana micros. Enjoy $3 off all mouth-watering appetizers, or swing by Friday for Montini Night and perfectly mixed $5 top shelf martinis from 3 to close. It's time to relax at the Montana Club. Real Montana, real food on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
When you need a bank to help ramp up your savings strategy, look to your local bank, Opportunity Bank of Montana. Build confidence in your financial future when you create a rainy day cushion or take care of the nest egg you already have. Opportunity Bank offers options from basic savings to money market accounts and certificates with competitive rates. There's nothing like the feeling of progress, so let's get started today. Come see us at Opportunity Bank of Montana. OpportunityBank.com. Member FDIC.
Springtime is the time to buy a new Polaris off-road vehicle. During the spring sales event, rebates go as high as $1,500 and financing is as low as 3.99%. Live your life wide open in a high-performance RZR. Tackle anything from mountains to mud holes on a legendary Sportsman ATV. Get more done with a hard-working Ranger, or take on any task or trail in a versatile Polaris General. Whatever you're looking for, now is the time to take your pick from the off-road's best-selling lineup. See Polaris.com or your Polaris dealer for rebates up to $1,500 and financing as low as 3.99% APR for 36 months during the Polaris Spring Sales event at Kurtz Polaris. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula and Highway 83 in Sealy. Recreate the right way with Kurtz Polaris, online at KurtzPolaris.com. Offer valid in U.S. through 5/31/19 on new 2015 through 2019 vehicles. Subject to credit approval. Offers vary by model. See dealer for details. Always wear a helmet. Never drink and ride.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula. ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Hey, how are you? Ryan Tutel, Colton Nuanez, ESPN Sports Center. Josh Tafalele, Montana State's offensive line coach in 2017 and 2018, and the recently named Bobcat recruiting coordinator, has resigned because of personal reasons, MSU head coach Jeff Choate announced on Monday. With his promotion to recruiting coordinator, Tafalele moved from offensive line to tight ends during MSU spring practices in March and April. Tafalele helped mentor an offensive line that paved the way for a Bobcat rushing attack that ranked first or second in the Big Sky Conference each of the last 3 seasons.
Choate also announced the hiring of Nate Potter, a former Boise State standout and NFL draft pick who coached the offensive line at the College of Idaho last season. Potter was a 7th-round draft pick by the Arizona Cardinals in 2012. Brian Armstrong, the former offensive coordinator for the Bobcats, will coach the MSU offensive line in 2019. Potter will coach tight ends, and running backs coach Daenerys McGee takes over as recruiting coordinator.
Behind second-day victories in the 400 meters, the 4x400 relay, the discus, and triple jump, the Missoula Sentinel Boys track and field team cruised to the Western AA divisional title over the weekend. Spartans piled up 142 points, 45 more than runner-up Helena Capital. Elias DeWaters continued his claim as the best triple jumper in the state, while Brock Field was the discus divisional title winner, as well as Jaden Foster, who won the 400. Spartans will be one of the favorites entering this week's Class AA state track and field meet in Kalispell over the weekend. right at you. It's Stu Tell Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Outstanding to be with you on this Tuesday afternoon. Hope you are having a fantastic day. We are broadcasting live from the Chris Polaris studio. Chris Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy. Online at chrispolaris.com. If you missed anything in the first hour, you can listen on the podcast. Podcast available on the TuneIn Radio app and on iTunes and on Spotify. It is there thanks to the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel. You can also listen live, no matter where you are, via the stream. The stream is available all the time. 1029ESPN.com. It's there thanks to Opportunity Bank, your local bank, your opportunity. And if you'd like to call us, well, we welcome that as well. 329-1899, 329-1899, the phone number. All guests join us via the Rankage Brothers RV line. 20 minutes from now, looking forward to this, Ross McMonnies, who is the executive director of the Missoula Strikers soccer team, soccer club. It's, I guess, multiple teams. And he has just taken a U16 boys team to England, which is his home country, and they've returned. They're also getting ready for a giant tournament, the third annual Youth Champions Tournament at the Fort Missoula, which will be the 21st through the 23rd of June. Coulter and I, in fact, going to be out there on that Friday, broadcasting live from out there, so looking forward to that. But stick around for our conversation here with Ross coming up at the bottom of the hour. First, though, we got to talk a little bit of NFL. Sort of been what the NFL has been where it isn't very often, and that is the back burner. It's been on the back burner, even coming out of the draft, and a ton of stuff has gone on. A couple of things, Coulter, you told me yesterday about Doug Baldwin, which I did not know in my absence to the islands, to the equator in the Philippines. I had not heard the Doug Baldwin news. I did hear the Cam Chancellor bit. So that was surprising to me. Both of those guys medically cut, basically, or cut based on not being able to pass the physical from the Seattle Seahawks. Cam Chancellor retiring, and Doug Baldwin shooting out a series of tweets which implied retirement, although did not state explicitly that he was retiring. And so that is a brand. It's all new now in Seattle, except for, of course, Russell Wilson and Bobby Wagner, who is still holding it down in the middle defensively. But a whole bunch of new guys, not even Frank Clark still on the team. And so your question, Coulter, is what about the Seattle Seahawks?
Well, a couple other updates to give you that you missed while you were gone. Is Ziggy Ansah signed with the Seahawks? That's an interesting move. Mm-hmm. He's a potential filled guy, no doubt. The New England Patriots, in typical fashion, have signed Danny Shelton, Ben Watson, and Fletcher Collins to one-year deals. So they got three talented guys, one in Shelton, who's had a hard time with his conditioning, another in Collins, who's had a hard time with his personal stuff, and a third in Ben Watson, who's just at the end of his career. But as we have seen throughout the years, Ben Watson will have a good year for the Patriots just because
Seems
that's
like
just how it rolls.
Well, and there's no Gronk now.
The other interesting things, Deion Jordan tested positive for Adderall, so he's suspended. So that's another hit to the Seahawks.
Chris Long retired after 11 seasons.
And Patrick Peterson failed a drug test, so he is suspended for the first 8 games.
First 8 games.
Pat Peterson.
Okay, that is a development for the Arizona Cardinals for sure.
My question for you is, what not just me, but what everybody has been predicting is that as soon as you pay Russell Wilson, everything else must change. And now that Cam Chancellor and Doug Baldwin are gone, like you just said, everything is 100% officially different with the exception of Bobby Wagner and maybe KJ Wright, but he was a far down the list in terms of star power on that team. But the Seahawks have been fine, pretty good since that 2-year run where they made it to back-to-back Super Bowls, won one, lost one. But they've been basically just kind of like a 10-win team, 9 or 10 wins. That's what they've been. I think they won 11 games one time in that span, but no more than 11.
They also missed the playoffs.
And they missed the playoffs several times. I think they missed the playoffs twice since then.
Okay.
Regardless.
Were they in the playoffs last year?
They did make the playoffs last year.
I think they did.
They were a 10-win team. They made the playoffs. So the second team out of the West.
Okay.
Are they a contender? Is Russell Wilson good enough to make them a contender?
Yes and no is the answer to that question, to the second part of that question. Russell Wilson is good enough to make them a contender.
He is.
He is. But, again, it just doesn't matter in football because you got to have more than just a quarterback. So Russell Wilson is good enough to get you there, but that doesn't mean that you're going to get there because you still have to have other guys in place. And here's the thing that happened when Pete Carroll and John Schneider took over the Seattle Seahawks, and they had all those roster moves, and they went from like the oldest team in the NFL to the youngest team in the NFL in a year. And, 200 and something personnel transactions, like double that of any other franchise over the course of like 18 months. And they go out and they get it right with Earl Thomas, but then they get it right in the third round with Russell Wilson. They get it right in the fifth round with Sherman. At least the fifth round, if not later, with Cam Chancellor. Doug Baldwin, undrafted free agent. And everybody looks at, particularly John Schneider, as this draft savant, and they're hitting on all these late draft picks. And you know what they are, and they drafted great. But you know what they didn't get credit for at that time that I think people are starting to turn on to a little bit?
Development.
Boom. Pete Carroll and John Schneider together with the coaching staff, they know what they're looking for and they know what they want out of guys. They have a certain bit, if I may say, of the New England Patriots in them, and the Bill Belichick ability to identify not who's good and bad, what it is that you're great at and what we want you to do for us. And Sherman got, quote-unquote criticized, or guys would call him out because he's such a big talker, Richard Sherman, that guys would talk about, well, you only play on the left side. Well, you know what? That's what they wanted him to do. And you know what he was? Elite. In fact, the best at that thing. That he was as a long cover corner on one side of the ball. That was what he was the best at. And they made one of the great all-time defenses out of not just him, but him performing that function. Well, what you are seeing now is a bunch of guys who no one knows who in the world these guys are coming in and playing really sound defense last year. Even with Earl Thomas out for a good portion of the year, Richard Sherman gone. Yeah, you have Bobby Wagner doing it, KJ Wright doing it, but by and large, total overturn. Cam Chancellor's not playing on this defense last year, and they were outstanding. They were top 10 defense. They're not as good as the all-time defense, clearly, but they were still very good, functionally better than functionally good. They know what it is that they're doing. It seems to me in Seattle with those two guys in particular, John Schneider and Pete Carroll at the helm, and they are going to continue to produce guys because right now the front end of the season we go, well, who's going to do what? How are they going to pull this thing off? But guess what? That's what everybody said until they went out and all of a sudden Richard Sherman became a household name when he's talking smack to Tom Brady after a win in Seattle. That's the way that this will go. Does that mean that they're headed for the Super Bowl? No. But does it mean they're contenders? Yes, it does. I think they are contenders. And they have the position locked up that they need to have locked up. And if they can develop the way they have, that's great. The other thing I'd say is this. Russell Wilson getting paid, nothing to do with Cam Chancellor and Doug Baldwin. Nothing.
Right.
That was going to happen whether or not he got it at all. Frank Clark is the one guy you can point to and go, he's a casualty of Russell Wilson's paycheck. But guess what? Bring in Ziggy Ansah? Now, he's coming off a significant injury. I forget if it was an Achilles or a knee. It's something. It was major. It was season-ending. It was surgery. But Ziggy Ansah is as big a freak as you're going to find in the National Football League that is full of freaks. So I'm interested to see, first of all, where he's at physically just himself, but also where he fits into this whole thing. But I think that Seattle will always have reason for optimism at this time of year.
I don't think they make the playoffs next year.
I mean, they might not. But here's the other thing. Who's who's good in their division? The Rams, for sure.
For sure.
The Cardinals are potentially something, but also very rickety and coming off of just bad, right? And the San Francisco,
especially because their best player is suspended.
Totally. And they got Cliff Kingsbury, who
totally
is and the whole thing is
one of the biggest wild cards in the NFL.
And the San Francisco 49ers certainly, I think, are on the uptick. They're an improving team, and when they get Garoppolo back, presumably for a season, that puts them in a much better situation. But I think that pretty clearly Seattle is the number 2 team in the NFC West, and maybe battling, for the top spot with the Rams, depending on how things go. It's tough to go to the Super Bowl. We've seen what happens when you go play in a Super Bowl and come back the next year. Can you repeat that thing? Maybe they can. Maybe they can't. We'll see. But I think that Seattle's in a good position in their division, and I think they're absolutely in a viable playoff situation.
Yeah, I mean, they're not going to win that division. I think the Rams are. And so then it comes down to, are they better? Because, I mean, I think the division winners are very – I think that the Rams and the Saints are clear-cut cream of the crop in the NFC. And then I think that it comes down to, are the Seahawks better than the Cowboys? I don't think so. I wish they were, because I hate saying the Cowboys are good, but I think the Cowboys are better than the Seahawks on paper right now.
Except for what?
Except for quarterback.
No. Well, yes, that too. And what?
Coach.
Right.
Because of, yes.
So if you got a better quarterback and a better coach than another team.
I think that the Cowboys, if they could figure out either of those two things, could be one of the best teams in the league.
Totally. And because the Cowboys are
stacked on defense.
Smoking defense. Yes, sir.
They're
yes, they
stacked
do.
on
yes,
defense.
They do.
Are the Seahawks better than the Eagles? I don't think so. Are the Seahawks better than the Panthers? Toss-up. Depends on what Cam Newton you get. Are the Seahawks better than the Falcons? Toss-up. I just think that I just want to know, who's Russell Wilson going to who's going to be on the other end of this? Can they trust these running backs? Who is he going to throw the ball to? Like, they just don't have a lot of weapons. Russell Wilson's great. I don't particularly love him, but I think he's an outstanding quarterback. I think he's certainly one of the 4 best quarterbacks in the NFL. I think it's him and Rodgers and Mahomes and
Breeze and Brady.
There you go. He doesn't have Michael Thomas. Mm-hmm. He doesn't have, the variety of playmakers that all those other guys we just made. Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, although that's not going to be a thing in Kansas City this year, but whatever. He doesn't have the playmakers the rest of those guys have.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think that they have clearly gone so heavy at running back in recent drafts that they don't have any individual. They don't have Marshawn Lynch, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think they have positional productivity that you can't match. Again, I think this is straight out of the New England Patriots playbook. You want to feel miserable, draft a Seahawk running back for your fantasy team, because it's going to be 3 touchdowns and 125 yards one week and not even playing the next week, because it's going to be strictly matchup based. But I think they're going to be good running the football. They're much improved on the offensive line. Who's catching the football is a very viable question, because I got no clue. But what's the position that's maybe the least important, right? Is why, we always talk about how these wide receivers make so much money, some of them, and they're elite and they're hugely productive, and their teams aren't the better for it necessarily. They're not getting anywhere out of that. Where do you make your hay? You make it rushing the quarterback.
That's the other question. So Ziggy Ansah's so key, because if Deion Jordan's suspended and Frank Clark's out, then you got to have somebody that can rush the passer, and they don't have Sheldon Richardson anymore either. So their D line's gonna be completely remade as well.
Mm-hmm. Totally. And so that's where you're at. But I still think, are they better than the Falcons? Yes. The Falcons were flat out bad, man, last year. Are they better than Carolina? I think so. I think they're better than Carolina. Are they better than the Dallas Cowboys? Again, I already made the argument. They might not be, though. I think Dallas is good. I'm with you. But are they better than either Dallas or Philadelphia? Because they only got to be better than one of them. Washington and the New York Giants, nope. So one of those two teams, is presumably a wild card team, whether it's Philly or Dallas, whichever one doesn't win the NFC East. And then what? If they don't, and by the way, I don't think it's a foregone conclusion. Would I pick the Rams to win the NFC West? Yes, I would. No question. But I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility at all, particularly not that the Seahawks are even better than the Rams, but the Rams have a really tough year. I think the Rams could sit here and find themselves the victims of their own success in a lot of ways. And so I don't know what to expect out of the Los Angeles Rams this season, even though, yes, you would expect them to be a good team once again. But can they be better than the Falcons or the Panthers, or can they be better than whoever's the second best team? I think the NFC North is the one you got to look at. Because, okay, I'll do the thing. I think the Packers are going to be very good. I think the Bears are very good. And I think the Minnesota Vikings have a real possibility of being good too, depending on what they're able to pull off. So I think that certainly at least one of the wild card teams in the NFC is coming out of the North. And so but here's the thing. If it's 7 or 8 teams vying for 6 spots and the Hawks are one of those teams, they are contenders. I mean, the question is, are they contenders? The answer is yes. Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. One more quick thing before we got to get out as Ross Money's coming in here. Ndamukong Suh signs with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a 1-year deal. They released Gerald McCoy. McCoy was the 3rd overall pick in 2010, and Ndamukong Suh was the 2nd overall pick in 2010. So those guys go back to back, and the Bucs trade him out. Here's the thing I want to know. He spent quite a bit of time in Detroit, went to Miami, and he was good in Detroit. He was a multi-time Pro Bowler in Detroit, Ndamukong Suh. Goes to Miami, ton of money, no productivity. Goes for 1 year to the Rams and had a very mediocre season, particularly when you consider that he was paired with the best defensive player in football in Aaron Donald, but then had an outstanding postseason. And now here he is in Tampa Bay. 30 seconds, Coulter. Why hasn't Ndamukong Suh stuck somewhere?
Well, I think he's one of the most polarizing players in the entire NFL in terms of personality style. I mean, he obviously has severe anger issues. Those have been enacted on the field multiple times. And, I also think that what he is physically is unmatched. Therefore, you must pay him like that. And the production, while has been good, has not been elite. And the production is not on the par with the amount of money you have to pay him.
Production has been great if you didn't know who it was. But then when you know who it was, you're like, oh, it should be better.
And it should be better when you're going to pay him $20 million a year.
No doubt.
If you're going to pay an inside guy $20 million a year, they better give you Aaron Donald's an unrealistic bar. But I'm so interested to see where Gerald McCoy goes, where he ends up, because Gerald McCoy is one of my favorite players in the NFL. I love Gerald McCoy. Yes. I think Gerald McCoy is outstanding. I think that his production level him and Suh have similar production, but Suh has played next to a lot better guys, whereas McCoy's been all by himself down there in Tampa Bay. I think he could go be a huge piece. I mean, if he ended up on the Seahawks or the Vikings or the Packers, a contender like that, the Cowboys, I mean, he's a intriguing piece, and he's only 30.
And Gerald McCoy's release was 100% contract related.
Right.
It was not about productivity or even, I think, about health.
Who's the number 1 pick ahead of those two guys? 2010 draft.
2010. Was it a quarterback?
Yep.
Good gracious. 10 years ago almost.
Sam Bradford. How the Big 12 has fallen. The top 6 picks in that draft. Sam Bradford, Ndamukong Suh, Gerald McCoy, Trent Williams, Eric Berry, Russell Okung. Every single one of those guys from the Big 12. That draft, dynamite. Besides Sam Bradford, you also had Joe Hayden, Earl Thomas, Jason Pierre-Paul.
Was Earl Thomas in the 2010 draft?
Yep. Mikey Opati, Maurice Pouncey, Jermaine Gresham, Demaryius Thomas, Dez Bryant, Devin McCourty, Rob Gronkowski, Linval Joseph. I mean, you're talking about Sean Lee, Carlos Dunlap, Golden Tate. You're getting all Emmanuel Sanders. You're getting all pro guys. Navarro Bowman, Jimmy Graham. Every single one of those guys better than Sam Bradford.
2010.
We got all the way down to the 95th pick.
Here's the thing. I wouldn't go there with you. Sam Bradford got ruined physically.
Okay.
It's different than Buster.
It doesn't matter, though.
Does matter.
Even if he fulfilled his potential, he's still not better than Everson Griffin. Everson Griffin was the 100th pick in that draft, 4th rounder.
Sutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Quick break. On the other side, we welcome in Ross Monies, who is the club director for the Missoula Strikers Soccer Club. Great trip he's going to tell us about, taking the kids to London and around the greater country of England, which is his home country, as well as a big, big tournament forthcoming. Him next.
Hey, Tutel Nuanez here. Can't tell you how many times we've heard the face for radio joke since we came on SWX television, but it's been a fun endeavor so far.
And now our esteemed producer Tommy is pushing the envelope even further. We got our own YouTube channel.
That's right. If you want to watch us every day from your computer, your tablet, your cell phone, you can check out Tutel Nuanez on YouTube.
Tutel Nuanez, live every weekday from 4 to 6 in the afternoons on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Missoula, SWX Montana statewide, and now around the planet Earth on YouTube.
Good news. Missoulians can finally move into what we love best, being outside. Garden City Paint and Glass can help you get a head start on all those outside home improvement projects. Now is also a great time to start getting a jump on cracked windows and broken screens. Enjoy up to 25% off select products. And be sure to watch for PPG rebates to help the job along. Look good, stay comfortable, and keep energy costs down at Garden City Paint and Glass. 3217 Brooks or 549-0608.
Canyon River Golf Club is a must for any golfer in western Montana. Tucked away in a spectacular setting along the Clark Fork River in East Missoula, Canyon River offers one of Montana's best championship golf experiences. And Canyon River is happy to announce their new fleet of golf carts, which include the Shark Experience, an interactive GPS giving dynamic distances and touchscreen interaction to help you play your best. Plus, with Bluetooth, radio, and surround sound, you can enjoy yourself between holes too. Book online at CanyonRiverGolfClub.com. Missoula's best golf, Canyon River. Hey everybody, Ryan Tutel, and I'm here with Josh of the Advocates Injury Law Firm. Josh, there's a lot of lawyers in this area. What makes you different?
At the Advocates, we primarily focus on injury cases. That gives us the experience and the knowledge to correctly evaluate your case and work with insurance companies and other attorneys so you get exactly what you deserve to make you whole again. We take really good care of our clients, and we're going to fight for every single dollar you deserve.
Call 640-4444 or online at MontanaAdvocates.com. There are a lot of lawyers. You deserve an advocate.
Some so-called sports bars, you spend so much time fighting to see the TV, you're better off just staying home. Others show the game, but a basket of stale rye chips is not exactly your idea of a good game grub. At the Desperado, you get front row seats to every single spring baseball and NASCAR event, plus all the spring NBA and NHL postseason action. And with juicy burgers, ice cold brews, and the best wings in town, you'll leave the Desperado satisfied whether your team won or lost. The Desperado Sports Tavern, where the emphasis is sports, food, and good times on South Russell, across from the Y.
Board of Missoula is celebrating 30 years in business, and they're hosting a 30-year bash on May 24th. Join them for a game of skate down at the Missoula Skate Park, followed by a local video premiere at Locals Only. To cap off the celebration, Mass FM is playing a free show at the Top Hat that night. Board of Missoula, Missoula's original board shop since 1989. On the Hip Strip at 618 South Higgins, and check out Instagram, Facebook, and boardofmissoula.com.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good evening, Ryan Tutel, Colton Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Sports Center. Josh Tafalele, Montana State's offensive line coach in 2017 and 2018, who was recently named the Bobcat recruiting coordinator, has resigned for personal reasons, MSU head coach Jeff Choate announced on Monday. With his promotion to recruiting coordinator, Tafalele moved from the offensive line to tight ends during MSU spring practices in March and April. He also helped mentor an offensive line that paved the way for a Bobcat rushing attack that ranked either first or second in the Big Sky Conference each of the last 3 seasons.
Choate announced the hiring of Nate Potter, a former Boise State standout and NFL draft pick who coached the offensive line at the College of Idaho last season. Potter was a 7th-round draft pick by the Arizona Cardinals in 2012. Brian Armstrong, who was the offensive coordinator for part of last season, will coach the Bobcat offensive line once again in 2019. Potter, he will coach tight ends, and running backs coach Denarius McGee, he takes over as Montana State's recruiting coordinator.
Behind second-day victories in the 400 meters, the 4x400 relay, the discus, and the triple jump, the Missoula Sentinel boys track and field team cruised to the Western AA divisional title over the weekend. The Spartans piled up 142 points, 45 more than runner-up Helena Capital. Elias DeWaters continued his claim as the best triple jumper in the state, while Brock Field claimed the discus divisional title, and Jaden Foster won the 400. The Spartans will be one of the favorites entering the Class AA state meet in Kalispell this weekend. Time to talk soccer and culture. Things I like. Stu Tell Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, online at kurtzpolaris.com. You can find us on Twitter at Gus2Tell, at 102.9 ESPN, and at Skyline Sports MT. I'm a terrible tweeter, but I am a great retweeter. That's where my strength lies. So check it out at Gus2Tell. Welcome into the studio. How about this? All the way across town, joining us in here, Ross McMonnies. He is the executive director, the head of the Missoula Strikers Soccer Club, fresh off a trip to England, his home country, with the U16 team from here in Missoula, and also getting ready for a giant soccer tournament coming up June 22nd through the 24th, I guess it is.
I think the 21st is a Friday
okay.
Through Sunday,
Yep. It's the third annual Intermountain Champions Cup Youth Soccer Tournament at the Fort Missoula soccer fields over there, near the Fort Missoula, the beautiful new parking facility there.
Hello, welcome.
So lots to talk about. Hello, Ross. Thanks for coming in. How are you?
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Glad to have you back. Lots to talk about, lots of things going on with the Strikers and with you, but let's talk about this trip because you have just come back from the UK with a U16 club team, taking them over to England to play soccer, which is quite a thing, I would think, to take. England loves soccer like almost no one else loves anything else, right?
Yeah.
So what's it like to have kids who are playing a very high level of soccer here in the States, but taking it to a whole another level over there in England?
Yeah. There's a whole lot to talk about with this trip. It was a great experience for these boys. Initially, the first reason I wanted to take them was, one, obviously I'm from there, and I haven't been home it's difficult for me to get home. So it's kind of a bit of an excuse, too, to take a trip back home. But to take a team there was fantastic. Just to give them the opportunity to put them in an environment, like you said, with English, a culture that just lives and breathes soccer. That's what I wanted them to experience. It's not just about the things that happen on the field. It just surrounds the whole. Everywhere you turn is soccer. Everyone's talking about it. Everyone's playing it. It's 24/7. Yeah.
Is it when you're playing, for the Strikers in Missoula and on these club teams, there's a lot of investment in time, a lot of investment in some finances for some of these kids to be able to do that. But when they go there, they go, oh, wow, this is what a soccer culture looks like.
Yeah,
this is what and what do they take away from that, do you think, in terms of what they bring back here to the game?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing I wanted the boys to bring back with them is an understanding of that passion, like just what it means to people. Every kid playing for Missoula Strikers and any high school in this country loves soccer, no doubt. But it's a different level when you go to England or Europe or South America. It's a religion, like it's deep rooted in their history. And that's what I wanted the boys to take away from this.
Like you say, it's like a religion there. As somebody that the culture of soccer in Missoula, in Western Montana, in Montana as a whole, in the Pacific Northwest, seems like it's growing across the board. And that's as evidenced with this Intermountain Cup. 70-plus teams, maybe as many as 100, descending upon Missoula next month. Really cool. It'll be a fun weekend of just all ages of soccer at Fort Missoula, which has been such a great facility, such a great addition to the community. But as someone that grew up in a country where it is a religion, what are some of the biggest differences you noticed just in the way that Americans consume soccer and the way that maybe British people or people worldwide consume soccer, and how do you try to convey that and emphasize that to the kids?
Yeah, I think Missoula Strikers are kind of leading the way. We have a lot of young coaches that are very like-minded with me. They live and breathe it. They went to play in college. They love it. And they're at a point now in their lives where they're back here in their daily lives working, but they want to give back. They want to share that passion that they took from the game and provide that to their youth. So we're just trying to do the right things. We're happy that we're being able to put this Intermountain tournament on and bring out like-minded clubs into the environment too, and just kind of raise the level of soccer in Montana.
Ross McMoney's joining us. He's the club director of the Missoula Strikers Soccer Club here in Western Montana, in Missoula. And Ross, I want to ask you about going home for you with a group of American kids. What's that like for you to go back to England, not just for the soccer part of it, but for the entire cultural experience where you are going? It's a homecoming for you. Do you get excited about showing the boys, hey, okay, this is what, this is where I used to be, and this is how England works and all that kind of stuff? Is that fun for you?
Yeah. So we went over for spring break. It was a 10-day trip. The day we landed, we went to an England game at Wembley, England against Czech Republic. England won 5-0, and I've never been to Wembley, so it was a shared experience. Kids that live in England don't get to go to Wembley. So to take 17 kids from Missoula there was pretty awesome, and to share in that experience as their coach too was really good. I grew up in Hull, and I played for Hull City's youth academy for a period. So we actually took them to Hull, and that's where I grew up. So they got to meet my family, my older brother and his kids, but they also got to play against Hull City. And I was their age when I was in and around the team. So for those kids to make that connection with me as a coach,
play 3 matches yourselves too, right? So when you're talking about playing kids that are at that level, what do you think that did for your club?
Oh man, it's definitely raised the level. Like I said, the kids have come back with some of that passion and love for the game. It was a huge test. I knew what they were getting into. I'm not sure they did. But they Montana kids are resilient, man. You throw them in the deep end, they're going to learn how to swim. And that's what these kids did. They stood up to the challenge. We got beat every game, but every game we got better and better too. And the results were 1-0, 4-1, and 3-1. But the games were a lot closer than the scoreline suggests too. Since we've been back, we haven't lost a game. These guys are just killing it. And that's what I want. We also in Montana have a tendency to drop to the level of our competition. And it's a mindset. I'm trying to switch the mindset of these kids now. They've played against Nottingham Forest, U15 boys in England, who are one of the best academy systems in Europe, not just England, right? We lost 4-1 against them, but we had a chance to tie it up and make it 2-2. We competed against one of the best academy teams. So there's no reason we should come back here and struggle against another local club team. We should continue to play at that high level, and it's the mindset struggle that I'm trying to fix right now for these boys.
Do you think this Intermountain Champions Cup will be the next great test for you?
The next great test is regionals. We're going to a regional event. We have a Cal South team, a Cal North team, and a Colorado team. That's going to be the next big test.
What are the dates for that?
June. It's the week leading up to the Intermountain.
Oh, so you guys got a lot of soccer to be played.
We've got a lot of soccer to be played, and we're enjoying every minute of it. But the Intermountain tournament will be our final event, and we're going to kill it.
I want to ask you just about the parallels between club soccer, high school soccer, because there's a way to play soccer quite often in Montana, despite it being a cold weather climate. And I know you guys work hand in hand with a lot of the high school programs. But Strikers seems like something that you can immerse yourself in at such a high degree. So what sort of principles have you tried to add to just the soccer community in Missoula? And where do you think of just the way that the Strikers have grown and where you guys are at right now just as a total club program?
Yeah, I think the benefit to club soccer is we have time. That's the biggest difference. High school sports, it's a very short season. They don't have a lot of time, and there's a lot of games squeezed into that schedule. So you don't have a lot of time the coaches can't really develop their players. It's kind of, you have to put your pieces together, put them on a field, and aim for results. we have the luxury of having more time, longer season. We can really focus on development of the players, the individuals, and it's just a different aspect. You know, we're chasing development, and high school coaches are the same. They want their players to get better, but they're also pretty focused on results too.
The third annual Intermountain Champions Cup Youth Soccer Tournament is again June 21st through the 23rd at the Fort Missoula Park fields out there just off of South Avenue near Big Sky High School. Spectacular venue for this. What was the impetus for putting this on to start with, and how have you seen this grow in just coming into its third year in existence now?
Yeah. Like I said, I think Missoula Strikers are leading the way for soccer in Montana. Obviously, I'm biased. I'm running the club. I've been doing it for 5 years. But to be honest with you, I had no idea what I was getting myself into when I took the job. You know, I had a lot of experience as a coach, came in, I thought I was going to do this, this, and this, and it would be smooth sailing. It's been a struggle. But every year, Missoula Strikers has improved. And the Intermountain is no different. Every year, this tournament has got bigger and better, and we're different from other tournaments. We want to give not just the players, but the parents coming in, the coaches coming in, an opportunity to see what Missoula is like. It's a beautiful place. I've lived here for 10 years now, and it's the place I call home. I moved around a lot as a kid. I lived in Germany and Belgium, and it's always been very easy for me to move. It is going to be very difficult for me to leave Missoula.
You mentioned some of the challenges. What are some of the biggest challenges in forging a premier club program in the state of Montana and in Missoula?
Yeah. There's a long list. You can't please everyone. You know, it's very difficult as a leader to please everyone, and you want everyone to be happy. But honestly, if you are, you're probably not doing your job. That's one thing that I try and keep in mind. We're just trying to do the right things, right? Everyone's going to have an opinion on the decisions that I make as a club and what the board does and coaches do, okay? So everyone is going to criticize you at some point. So why not just do the right thing? And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to do the right thing for soccer in this community, for all of the kids involved, and on the masses, can we improve? And Missoula Strikers is doing that.
Last week we had Quinn Peacock in to the studio for an interview, and she did a great job. She's very well spoken, but I think about a dozen girls from the city of Missoula over the last 10 years has got a chance to go out and play for the University of Montana, but there has not been a letter winner since Stephanie Carl back in 2013 or 14, and now Quinn has a chance to go do that playing in her hometown. So that must give you a ton of pride in terms of developing a young lady.
I'm very
like
proud of Quinn. She's worked hard for it, and it's been. I know she mentioned it was kind of the recruiting process was a struggle for her, and there was times where she was feeling a lot of pressure. But like I said, Montana kids are resilient, and I don't think the outside coaches in different regions give them enough credit. We have quality players in Missoula, Montana.
Ross McMonnies, he's the director of the Missoula Strikers soccer program, in studio with us. And Ross, just to circle back to this tournament, is when you're talking about 70 to 100 teams coming in.
Yep.
That's a ton of kids. It's a ton of parents. It's actually a significant financial boon to the community, which is great. But also it takes a lot of people to come together to pull this thing off. And I know that you can have, you're looking for volunteers, people to help out with this.
Yep.
MissoulaStrikers.com, you can go on and check it out and sign it up. But what are some of the things that, if people are interested in this, want to contribute, want to, give back or just participate in a really cool event that they can do?
Yeah, and there's a long list. Charlie Vandam is our tournament director. His info is on the website. He's kind of the main guy to reach out to. And if you're willing to volunteer, I'm pretty certain there's a sign-up link on the website too. But, I mean, everything. Parking assistance, food, field officials to make sure games are running smoothly, and referee support, like everything. You whatever you think of, we need the hands. Yeah, we need help. It's a huge undertaking. Charlie Vandam has done a fantastic job, incredible, and it just gets better and better every year. So bigger and better. We need more people.
Well, it'll be a really fun weekend, and actually just confirmed earlier this week, Tutel Nuaz will be broadcasting live first day of the Intermountain Champions Cup from Fort Missoula, 4 to 6 on June 21st. So we always love broadcasting from down there and getting some action in, and maybe we can grab a kid or two from off the sidelines too. So look forward to that. But Ross McMoney's joining us. Thanks so much for being with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
There you go. Ross McMoney's. Appreciate it very much coming into the studio, doing that with us. Quick break. Game 4. Eastern Conference Finals. Predictions next.
Alpine Touch makes the perfect gift this summer or any time of year. If you are traveling, bring a gift that is distinctly Montana and give your loved ones some of the best spices anywhere around. From the Alpine Touch Pick 4 Spice Pack to the All-Purpose Twin Pack to the mouth-watering sunflower shoots to Alpine Touch gift cards. Alpine Touch makes the perfect Montana present. Available at retail locations around the state or online for a limited time. Use the code ESPN10 at checkout to get 10% off any online order. Alpine Touch, Montana's special spice.
No matter how far you may go, there's always one just down the road. Town Pump, ooh, pump it up.
Looking for a sweet summer deal? You'll find them at your local Town Pump. Right now, buy any size fountain drink for only $1. Grab a delicious corn dog while you're at it. 2 for $2.22. Town Pump Food Stores. Proud to be part of our community.
Town Pump, right down the road. Pump it up, oh yeah.
Hey folks, the best season of the year is upon us. That's right, it's tax return season, and there's one place to have the most fun and make that refund check stretch further than anywhere else, Selway Armory. Selway Armory has the largest selection of firearms, ammo, and accessories of anywhere around, and they have the expertise to go with it. It's not everywhere that you can shop local and save money, but Selway Armory will meet or beat any box store price, and your money stays in Montana. It's tax return time, so get more bang for your buck at Selway Armory. Visit online at selwayarmory.com.
For 61 years, a handshake has meant something at Rangich Brothers RV, offering the best quality, reliability, and savings in Western Montana. And to say thanks, we're celebrating all May long during our May Days anniversary sale. To celebrate, we are offering exclusive deals on Jayco models, like a new Jayco bunkhouse travel trailer, starting at only $129 per month OAC. Or celebrate the great outdoors with a new 2019 Jayco Red Hawk Class C motorhome. Anniversary priced at only $58,750. Stop in, save big all May long during our May Days anniversary sale. Only where a handshake means something, Rangich Brothers RV Center.
Hi, boys and girls. Ryan Tutel
and Coulter Nuanez
from Tutel and Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio, from your very favorite Tutel and Nuanez podcast, and now officially Gracious Mercy on television statewide.
That's right. We've been doing a radio show and a podcast since August of 2017, and now it's time for us to expand our reach into statewide television on SWX.
We're on SWX every weekday from 4 to 6 live on your televisions. It's available on channel 199 on Spectrum Cable or on 23.3 on your antenna television. And you can download the Watch SWX app and get us that way on your phones and devices as well.
And of course, we'll still be right here, 102.9 ESPN Radio from Missoula and the Bitterroot Valley. And as always, you can find the podcast, the live stream, and everything else you need, 1029ESPN.com.
Coulter, do you think that we're spreading ourselves too thin? Are we going to saturate these people and they're just going to start hating us, the inevitable backlash of the great heights to which we have now attained?
No chance. Tutel and Nuanez, Montana's only statewide sports talk show.
Tutel and Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Missoula.
ESPN Radio has Game 4. The Eastern Conference Finals coming up just over 30 minutes from now. We will have that for you. Toronto hosting the Milwaukee Bucks. Give you some predictions here to wrap up this show. Right now, it's Tutel and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Outstanding to be with you. Sitting back in the seat. Feeling good over here. Got a tan going. I'm peeling. Got a nice sunburn. There's all the things you're supposed to have after you visit the equator. We are broadcasting from the Kurtz Polaris Studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy. Online, KurtzPolaris.com. You can find this show on the podcast, Tutel and Nuanez podcast, on the TuneIn Radio app, iTunes, and Spotify. It is there thanks to the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel. Coulter, the game tonight, Milwaukee, a 3-point favorite on the road. I like the number. I thought Toronto played really well. I thought they were outstanding at home. Thought they came through when they needed to, and I still think it took them 2 overtimes to beat the Bucks when Giannis was not nearly at his best. So I think that Giannis is going to be much better tonight. I think the Bucks will win tonight, and I think the Bucks then will win in either 5 or 6, presumably 5 to me if they win tonight. It's certainly not out of the realm that Toronto wins. I think Toronto is a good team. They've showed far more gumption than they've shown in any postseason ever in this one. But I got the Bucks winning this one.
I have not one time watched the Toronto Raptors over the last 5 years and been inspired.
Never.
The only time I was inspired was when Kawhi Leonard himself was just beating the Sixers by himself.
And 4 bounces on the rim and falling in.
The half of my analysis of watching that was, man, the Sixers are dysfunctional. And man, Kawhi Leonard's good. I never was like, man, the Raptors are good.
Who you got?
I got the Bucks. Okay. I got the Bucks in 5. I think the Bucks will not lose again in this series.
Okay. Very good. Still going to be a fun game. It's the only basketball on. Also, Game 6, the Eastern Conference, Western Conference Finals in the NHL. Blues hosting San Jose Sharks. Check that out. See you tomorrow.
Make me feel like a kid again. Don't wanna say goodbye to you. Summer always ends too soon. Whatever you want, I'll give you that. But tell me we won't grow up too fast. Let's make believe